We're going to get started, and I'm sure there'll be people that'll strangle in before Dick starts to talk. But I thought that it would be appropriate to read a poem to you, and it's called Wisdom for a Coach's Heart. And this is for Dick, and I think it fits him perfectly. He saw players that needed a dream, heart that needed a direction, drive that needed a passion. To him he saw boys that would be men. They looked up to him and valued his praise. To them he was the man and what he thought mattered the most. The players called him coach. He taught them leadership of a person and teamwork that could not be beaten. They showed him work and promise. The coach did not lie and did not treat one better than the other. He gave them a dream and they achieved. One dream to be the best they could be. Just to know him was to share in a passion so strong that it devoured your whole. His faith in his players made them believe that anything is possible. They became family that win or lose. They would stand together, one coach with a heart to give, and players' dreams to achieve. Gave the sport a soul called football. It's been my pleasure to get to know Dick since he arrived at Augustana Regent. We enjoy many wonderful conversations, as I'm sure all of you have had the opportunity and the pleasure and I don't know what else, because he brings such wisdom. So I'm happy to introduce Dick, and I'm going to let him do his stories. There's plenty of food up there, so please help yourself whenever you'd like.
It's kind of nice, isn't it? Get together on a real cold afternoon up here and they provide a nook for us. I can remember the first time I walked into Burnsville High School with Phyllis. We were checking out the facility. It had just one wing, of course, at that time. And we looked at the home ec labs, and they had 4 of them. Each lab had a table and 4 chairs. Beautiful. In fact, we had just selected it for our kitchen dining room set in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And I thought, how is any boy going to keep a Burnsville girl happy when she's raised in a school like that? And some of you can remember the graduation class not many years before that was 2, a boy and a girl, and it looked like a wedding. And it was wonderful to grow up with the school. The architects for the new wing invited us to go down to St. Paul, where their offices were, and pick every thumbtack that was going to be in our room. And it was one of the most fun things we've ever done in education. Stories have always been a big part of teaching mathematics and coaching football. In fact, I can remember telling a story in first hour class, and it got pedaled down to, by the time 4th hour came around, the kids were there with their arms folded. Are you going to tell us this story? And it could be about almost anything. At Christmas it got even crazier, because for a number of years I repeated the same story. I read Truman Capote's Christmas Memory, and I recommend it to you. It's much better than a cup of Christmas tea, and maybe as good as Dickens. So I read it. The kids would, after a while, brought the blankets, turned the lights down low. Word got out that it was going to be repeated year after year. And the people who had graduated and were still associated with the school as teachers or custodians or secretaries would ask me almost every day, "Is it story day, Coach? Can we come? Have you got room for us?" Of course we have room. What a thing to look forward to. And for the football team, it got to be a ritual at the end of the week's practice. The captains would take the team down to C-180, which was a very plush auditorium-like room that could get very dark. And they'd talk to them a little bit, the better stuff than I could think of, I know that. And then they'd give me the signal and I'd go in and talk with them for a while. Occasionally Vic or Neil slipped in the back and listened. I can remember Vic coming back out shaking his head, "What was that?" You can just hear Vic, can't you?
Yeah.
That's what he said after the Super Bowl this year too. "What was that?"
Good one.
So it's really, the stories have been a big part of my life and of teaching. Some of you know them so well you can number them and remember them and then maybe smile a little. I'm going to start with this story about Chris, because this one was published in the New Yorker. Don't I wish? It was published in a small math journal. We'll try it away from the mic and see how it goes. Cheryl and Marty and Steve have done a wonderful job of finding my props for me. The lanyard that used to support my whistle now supports the "I've fallen and I can't get up" buzzer. So you're reminded rather forcefully where you're sitting and what stage of life you're in. It's an interesting game at this stage. This probably won't work with it. You'd much rather have the mic, right?
Yeah. I think you need the mic and hear you better.
Yeah.
Imagine me walking up and down the aisle so I didn't teach sitting down. And I very often had to put the pencil in the student's hand and start the graphite flowing on the paper to get it going. Chris was such a boy. I enjoyed having him in class. He seemed to participate in discovery stuff that we were using to try to create the need to know. His attendance was almost perfect. But as we neared the last week of school, and I had been by his desk and put the paper down and the pencil in his hand, and he refused to bend his mind to a task that most teachers and students learn that they have to do. Somewhere along the line, you've got to do something that you'd rather both avoid. And Chris would rather not. His gaze was out my window, and it was a wonderful view out there. Softball fields, soccer fields, meals, the river valley, broad Minnesota River Valley, Minneapolis skyline, if you bend your neck, the St. Paul skyline. And if I was late in the day, I could watch the IDS tower capture that sunset and turn the city to Oz. I understood him looking out that window. His father attended all of the conferences, student-teacher conferences, and as I dialed his number, I was wondering how I was going to give him the bad news. "Should I get tougher on him?" his dad said. I said, "No, he kind of flushes when I walk by his desk now." Okay. Day before the test, I handed out the tip sheet that would focus their review if they do it. Most of them hit the circular file. Some of them were very carefully folded and entered in the NASA glider contest just outside my room. A few of them made it home. The test day came and went. And now it's nighttime, and you know the scene in my kitchen. Bright yellow light. Paper covers the table, kitchen table. Me and the Thunder out the dog. And I hit Chris's paper. '97. I looked for my seating chart so I could arrange the matrix of papers in the pattern around Chris to see how he could possibly assemble a 97. Highest paper around his desk, 82. I was waiting in the hall in the morning. Chris, I gotta see you. About the test, isn't it? I said, yes, it is, Chris. He said, I did okay. Okay, Chris. You did a 97. He went, yes! Pounded his fist in the air. I said, Chris, I gotta know. What did you do? He said, well, you know that paper that you gave us that most of us don't pay any attention to? Well, I took it home this time. My dad and I spent some time on it. I said, I know, Chris, but there were questions there that we hadn't looked at that material since the beginning of school. And you had to show every step. And then I stopped. I don't know why. I said, Chris, have you ever seen Once Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Which will be archived, I'm sure, among the best Oscar winners ever. He said, you know, I did. It was on an Oscar special on Channel 9 the other night, and I watched it. I said, Chris, do you remember when Jack Nicholson put his arm around the big Indian and said, Chief, you fooled us all? And I put my arm around that kid and said, Chris, you fooled us all. That night when I went home, kicked off my shoes and opened the strip to the national obits, I read that Will Sampson, who played the chief in Cuckoo's Nest, went to his maker the day Cliff took the test. Chris got a C- in Algebra 1 and went on to take a very respectable B- in Algebra 2. You never know. You never know how much they know. When you play that last game on the Friday after Thanksgiving at the Dome, you aren't sure if where you're going to kick off. It might be early as 8 o'clock, it might be as late as 10:30. Now if you let the kids stay in bed late, they aren't going to wake up until about the fourth quarter. And neither will some of the coaches right now. So we got to roll them out. A lot of teams do it different ways. We brought them into the gym at 10 o'clock. Had a light workout in the gymnasium. Then took them out in the foyer and gave them juice and rolls. Pat them on the back and bring them back at 5:30 for early team that evening. I can't sleep, so the janitors know to leave the back door open, and I'm in the school at 6 a.m. I went to my office, started running tape. 6:15. I hear a noise in the locker room. Who's there? It's me, Jerry. Jerry Ferguson? Yeah. What are you doing, Jerry? I knew he'd be there at 10. Said, can I show you, Coach? Sure, come on down to the office. So I could hear him working his way down the benches and between the lockers, and pretty soon he came in. Jerry was a senior. He wasn't going to dress that night. It was a physical problem. Nobody felt worse about it than I did. I said, "Good morning, Jerry. What are you up to?" Jerry was something of an artist. There were 56 kids going to dress that night. He was walking down those dimly lit aisles with 56 sheaves of paper with a drawing showing one of our players in a moment of success at the Dome, and he was matching that drawing with the clean white jersey that was hanging on the hook. That's why he coached 48 years. As John Wooden has immortalized, how could you find such splendid people? I'll tell one more. Then we'll break up a little and talk by our tables. I know if I was at a session like this, I would be going, "Oh, I got one." I remember Fergie told that one, and then he told this one, and he's got to hear that, or we've got to hear that, and if it's a good one, why don't you come up and tell it on the mic, or just share it with your table. We'll eat some of the wonderful stuff that's been prepared. And then we'll talk a little bit again. If we're going to continue this conversation, I have a proposal that involves poetry for maybe having another session. One more story. When you play football in this metropolitan area, you're followed closely when you get to section playoffs by at least 3 television stations. And you can go home at night and watch the playoffs unfold before your eyes. We, of course, were busy making highlight tapes out of possible future opponents. The captains came down one night and knocked on the door and said, "Can we talk to you, Coach?" And Neil and Vic and the guys had to bail out because I made them a promise, anytime you want to talk, I'll make my office available to you. Vic said, "That's a great role." So they bailed out, and I think it was your boy, Mr. Jackola, that said, "Coach, you know this, the number 1 sign that all those guys in front of the camera are giving?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "We don't like it. And if we're lucky enough to keep doing it, we'd like our team not to do it if we're on camera, or ever. Would you talk to the team about it?" I said, "I'd be glad to." So I got the kids together. We talked about the number 1 symbol. First of all, I don't like it because it's fleeting. You don't have it run very long. Ask Peyton Manning. Another reason I don't like it is something they might say about you. You're ranked number 1. You don't say, "We're number 1" when you come in on Monday. Not if you want to get it plastered. The other reason I didn't like it, it's way too close to the friendly little wave I got in my underpowered Chevette when I drove it on 30-foot on the freeway. So we asked the kids not to do that. I'm not big on fists. It's not a fist game. Boxing is a fist game. I'm not real big on holding up helmets. It's a team game. I kind of like this. We pray a little. I don't know if he's interested in football teams, but we pray a little. Phyllis prays a lot. So the season was completed. It was a good one. We host a party at the end of the season. And you know the scene. It's about 3:30, 4 in the morning. Phil and I are picking up the cardboard from the Domino Pizza. And she says, "Have you seen the film?" That was a very unusual thing for Phyllis to say. She hates to look at film with me, and you can imagine the reason. I said, no, it was on statewide TV on, and I don't have to make a highlight tape tonight, I haven't seen it, but why? She said, come on, I want to show you something. She had the film queued up at the end, where the trophy was being presented. And the camera zoomed in, so that you could just see hands and the trophy. And there were hands like this. And there were hands like this. And there was one hand that was up there. Like this. And almost immediately another hand came into the frame. And I told the kids on Monday when I froze the camera there, I don't want to ever know who this kid was. I want to think that it would have been any of you that would have done it. All of you would have done it. It very quickly but gently and then firmly closed on that hand and held it. I told the kids, we've all had somebody hold our hand. Make us better. Don't forget to tell them that. But now in this room, in this place, the symbolism of that move is more profound as we thank the people that take our hands and get us through the tough stuff. God bless you. We'll talk a little bit more after we munch, okay?